are you a coward or are you a man now? Because a coward is going to go in with that lack of confidence and cower up like a coward.
Yeah.
A man can go into it and face his fear.
Yep.
That's called courage, right?
Yeah.
That's what they say, right? Like courage isn't the lack of fear. It's facing
your fear. Yep. What's up, everybody? You Control You podcast, Mark Shaw Evans. I'm here with Matt Brown, the Immortal Matt Brown. Before we start every podcast, I just like to say what I'm grateful for. I'm always grateful for my family, always grateful for everything that I have in my life. And I'm extremely grateful that you were able to make it here with all the delays in the flight. So that was crazy. So yeah, how's life, man?
It's great, man. Yeah, I'm used to flying. You know, there's always going to be delays, so it's all good. Yeah,
when we were texting, I was like, he seems really chill about this. I know some people would just be flipping out right now that they're stuck on the delays, and you were like super chill about it. It was dope.
Nah, I'm pretty stoic about shit in my life, man.
I feel that.
I keep it easy. It's like, you can't control it, so who cares, right?
That's normally the message we try to preach here, so I'm with that.
Yeah.
So if people don't know, retired now, UFC fighter, what made you call it a day? What made you walk away? What was the big thing?
I just felt like I was done, man. I guess there's kind of a few different pieces to it. So, like, they offered me a fight, actually, and I pulled it up on my phone. I got the email, pulled it up, and I was just like, it didn't really get me up, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was like, I could use the money. That's cool. But I just felt like my purpose is kind of changing life. So, like, my first half of life was more trying to be a world champion, trying to be, the best self I could be, be the best fighter I could be, et cetera, et cetera. And the rest of my life is more committed and focused. The purpose is more giving back now. So I want the rest of my life to be about everybody else, not about me.
That's super deep. So then there's something that I've been talking about, especially on the last few weeks I've been on here, and it came from Mike Tyson, and he talked about how people that want to be great aren't usually great people at first, because mainly because when they're going for greatness, when they want to do this great thing in their life, they are usually very selfish, and they have to be in order to accomplish this goal. And hearing you talk about the shift in the mind where you want to look out for everyone else, you want to be there for everyone else, would you say that sort of fits where not selfish in a bad way? Because I think when you're chasing greatness and you have to be selfish, that's not a bad thing. But is that along the lines you would say where the mind shift came?
A little bit. So, like, I would disagree. I think, like, selfish people are selfish. And just because you're focused on a goal doesn't make you selfish, depending on what your reason is for that goal.
Could you go deeper into that one? What do you...
Yeah, like, if your goal is because, like, an ego thing or validation, or it literally is all about yourself and because you're a selfish person, maybe you're in it for the fame or money or whatever. If you're a selfish person like that, then yeah, you're selfish, period, right? And it's just magnifying itself in the sport that you chose or the career that you chose. Whereas if you have a real purpose behind what you're doing, and like, for me, it was more about my kids. I was like, I want to inspire my kids, and I want to inspire more people in general. My kids first, and of course, that there's a selfish aspect to everything in the world that we do. So, but it doesn't have to be all about yourself and just putting yourself up on that pedestal And I think that's where a lot of fighters have a hard time retiring too, because they can't get that validation somewhere else, and they can't get that that ego boost anywhere else. Because I promise you, there ain't no ego boost like getting your hand raised in a cage in front of 1 million people. So like, it's a cocaine. It's a
dopamine. It's definitely
it's like cocaine for real, man. And the problem is, when you come down, when I say it's like cocaine, it's like cocaine. Like you come down from it and you feel like a piece of shit. Yeah, and you're going to search for that shit again. But anyway, so it's all about, what your purpose is and what your goal is and what you want to get out of it and what you're doing it for versus, it's not as simple as like selfish or not selfish. And people a lot of times take it as selfish, but doesn't mean that you are being selfish. Like if I'm ignoring other people because I'm focused on my goal, it doesn't make me selfish. Like right now, my purpose is build my gym, give back to others. So I still have to ignore people that are pulling me away from my purpose. It doesn't make me selfish.
Ooh, that's
And
looking at it from that way, man, that's interesting.
Well, like Mike Tyson grew up very differently than me too.
Yeah,
right? So he probably was actually selfish, and I'm sure he admits it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that's everybody.
No, I understand that, and
it doesn't have to be that. People say that shit. They say like it's a selfish sport, and it doesn't have to be. Selfish people are selfish. If you're not a selfish person, it doesn't have to be a selfish sport. But that doesn't mean that it's not a self-centered sport. Like you're the only one going out there.
So there you go. Okay, because I was looking for the word that might fit then, where people can understand it. Because
it is centered around you.
Yeah,
because you're the one that's got to go out there and put your life on the line.
Okay, so then,
but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. And even, and I believe that's what, at least on my take of it, that's sort of where I was going with it, where the work, in order for you to do this thing that you want to do, that's going to help your family and going to help other people and also help you reach your goals, it has to be about you.
Yeah.
You're
the product.
Exactly. When you have to, and I talk about it, when you don't go to parties, when you don't go out drinking, when you got to stay, especially at your level. Like, I have no idea what it's like to fight at that level. I never went outside of Amis, so I have no idea what it's like to fight in front of 1 million people. I know the feeling of fighting in front of a few hundred people, and that was a high enough drug.
Right.
So,
well, again, you're the product, so it's just like any other business. Like, if the product don't come first, then you're gonna have a shit product.
Yep.
It just, people call it selfish because you are the product, but those around you should be trying to build that product to be good.
I'm gonna have to. There's like 3 pages that I'm literally going to look at again, which is dope. And the one word in there is just being more self-centered, and that's pretty dope.
We'll get like it's a business.
Yeah.
Like we're in the business of hurting people.
Yeah.
And the business of entertaining people technically, right? That's where you make the most money, is when you entertain people. And the business is going to fail if you don't center around the product.
Yeah.
Just like you run a gym, right? If you don't have a good product, the fuck you doing?
Yeah, you're pretty much stuck right there.
Yeah, that's what, that's where people, they're fighters that are good salesmen, right?
Yeah.
If the reason that people become good salesmen is because they don't have a good product. Same in a gym, right? You get really good at sales because you don't know how to make a good product. If you make a good product, it sells itself.
This is true.
Same in fighting.
Yeah. Sorry, you got my mind. I'm thinking about so many things here that even just that one word, changing it from selfish to self-centered, that changes a lot of things. Dope.
Well, again, if you have your purpose clarified, then it doesn't have to be selfish. It's like, and everybody needs to know. I tell a lot of fighters, they ask me like, how do I do this? How do I do that? I want to get to the UFC. And I read this great book, and I quote it all the time. It's called Why Not How. And I'm like, what do you mean? How do you get there? Do you know why you want to get there? You know your why. You can get through anyhow.
Oh, you touched on something. I also agree. You have to know your why. Whatever it is, you have to know your why. If you don't have a why for it, you're not going to be able to accomplish it, because there's too many. God, the universe, whatever you want to believe in, there's going to be too many trials and tribulations in the way, and it's going to test you. How bad do you want this? And it doesn't matter how much you want it. If you don't have a why, you're probably going to quit. You're not going to finish the 100%. Journey.
Probably one of the best books I ever read in my life is, I believe it's called Man's Search for Meaning. You heard of this? Yeah, Viktor Frankl. That was the whole purpose of it, right? He survived the Holocaust. How did he survive? There wasn't a how. Like, he's going through shit that you can't survive, but he had a why, so he survived. And he was the one that put that into my mind first. He was like, your why, you can suffer through anyhow.
How old were you when you read that book?
I don't know.
Were you already fighting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked is because a lot of these books, where I grew up, no one talked about books like this. No, so it was
yeah, same.
And
yeah, I grew up where they're like, get your ass to work, come home, drink a beer, and chill.
Yeah, that
they're like, you ain't got to read no fucking books. Watch TV.
Yeah, it wasn't
fucking football games on.
Roughly the same. The same. So I wasn't, like, my brain was quote unquote fully developed by the time I really started discovering all these types of books that talk about this stuff. And what really helped change in my mind was the fact that I dealt with a major injury and got told I wasn't going to be able to walk without a brace or walk without a cane.
What was the injury?
So I dislocated my knee training for, it was supposed to be my last Muay Thai tournament. My last hurrah. It's this big tournament they have. You fight 1 to 5 times in a weekend. Just nice and brutal and tons of fun of just straight Muay Thai. Training for my last one, I dislocate my knee, tear my ACL, my LCL, and I stretch my peroneal nerve. So my right foot doesn't work at all. And they were like, all this bullshit. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I've never been stuck in a bed before. I've never been here before. I don't know what the hell this looks like. They're telling me what I can't do. And now I have all this time, and I'm like, I start discovering videos and podcasts. And it was funny. I started with Eric Thomas, and then it just went to C.T. Fletcher, and then all the way down to all these other people, and then just books and different books. And then it was just like, oh shit, this is a whole different mind frame. Is this how these people are accomplishing all this shit? I'm like, I thought people just woke up and did it. I'm like, where the hell was this when I first started fighting? What the hell? And
they say the light comes after the dawn, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
or after the dark, whatever.
I knew where you were going with it. So the reason why I'm mentioning all this is, did you notice a change when you started reading these books and started looking at the world differently, I guess is the best way to say it? Did it change the way you trained? Did it change the way you were fighting? Did it change anything?
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, we're growing every day, man. Yeah, everything changes all the time. I come from a very, very, very small town. Not a lot of like high frequency people around. You know what I mean? A lot of drug addicts, a lot of just low level people, low minded people. Period. So I never, experienced anything like that, just like what you're talking about. Like, didn't have those types of role models in my life or influences in my life. So I had to reach out and find it. Yeah. So, it's nothing but good change.
what was the biggest impact that you've seen as far as training when you started discovering your why, when you started discovering we'll stick with the why for right now because I have other questions.
Yeah, man, I could get pretty fucking deep into that, man. That's a, you know, I had some real fucking revelations, to be honest, man. So, you know, I don't know if we want to talk for like the next hour about it, man. Because, so like my dad passed away in 2010, right? And he wasn't like a good dude, you know what I mean? Like, what wasn't a good father by any means. But he pushed me hard for sure, right? Like he had very high expectations, and I never lived up to him. And after he passed away, that's when I went on a 3-5 losing streak, and I realized like that was my purpose. I was trying to live up to his expectations. You know what I mean? I was trying to like prove that I was like a good son. You know what I mean? I was trying to prove something to him. And it took a lot of introspection, you know, a lot of digging deep into the soul and shit, right? And then I realized, well, I said, okay, well, I got to figure out my fucking why, you know what I mean? So I went out, started digging and, you know, searching, found some good shit and started to discover it. And then I went on a 7-5 win streak.
What was the why?
So it's changed since then. So I wrote it down. Back then, it was a little different because, you know, I just had my kids. So that was a huge part of it for sure. But at first it was more than that though. You know, it was a lot of it was the kids, but a lot of it was like to prove it to myself too. You know, because I didn't like respect myself. I had very like low self-esteem, and so a lot of it was to prove to myself that I'm somebody, and turn everything from external to internal.
Yeah.
And then it evolved more and more towards my kids once that kind of felt more fulfilled. But it originally wasn't as much about my kids as I think maybe it should have been more, but you know, whatever, that is not neither here or there. Yeah, it was, you know, just it became a self-centered thing.
Well done. I like that.
And I'll tell you,
like
I'll tell you where I kind of got it from. We were talking about the Book of 5 Rings earlier before the show, and that was where I got it from. Was Musashi. That's why he's tattooed on me right there.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the most powerful quote or sentence, whatever you want to say, and I've heard in my life, and it's there's nothing outside of yourself that's going to make you bigger, richer, stronger, faster, or better. Everything is within. Everything exists. Seek nothing outside of yourself. And I'm going to get that tattooed on me one day. Everything is within. And just that word right there, seek nothing outside of yourself. That was what literally changed my life right there.
Yeah.
And again, I made it about, you know, the internal and growing internally, a better soul, better, you know, finding that higher frequency vibration within my own self, and it paid dividends for me.
Man, that's incredible. That book has a special place for me because that book, and The Art of War, I would pick up and almost treat it like how people treat a Bible.
Yeah,
it's
my Bible.
Read it, and then whatever I read would jump out. But it's weird because during a lot of what you're saying, I'm in awe of you because you went at it. I know exactly what stages you're talking about, but you went through them so much younger than I did. Like it took COVID. It took COVID for me to face so many demons that I ignored.
Why COVID?
Because it shut everything down. So I couldn't do anything.
You shut everything down?
Well,
I didn't shut shit down.
Well, the gym ran, but the gym wasn't open to the public. So I still trained my fighters, but that wasn't. I was going through a divorce, and
I was too.
And it was.
I just finished the divorce.
For some reason, I had too much time on my hands.
Were they dicks about it around here?
Yeah. So it was.
See, they tried to on us, and I was like, I ain't playing your bullshit, man. Like we literally, I shut down for like a week, and then I'll tell you a little story real quick. So, we shut down for a week, and this kid, I don't know, not kid, he's like 25 years old.
Yeah.
Tried to kill himself on a railroad track right behind my gym, and like he laid on the track. Shit, you know, there's all cops and police and shit there, and you know, obviously, like, you know, I'll go there and I'm like, you know, because there's like police and fire at my gym. I'm like, what the fuck, right? So, you know, I go back there and I'm like, man, what's up? You know, like, why you doing that or whatever? And he was like, man, he's like, I just missed the gym, bro. And he's like, that's my spot. And I was like, bro, I ain't fucking shut down. Fuck you, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But we, you know, we just didn't advertise after that. We just
that's essentially what you're describing is exactly what we did. We at that time, my wife was getting ready for a fight. So like I had fighters that were training and we just trained all the time, all day long. But it was, it for me, it literally felt like the train just stopped. I can't tell you exactly why.
Most of our members had to pause their accounts because they didn't have jobs or any money.
That could have been it too, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't the money. It wasn't, to be honest. It wasn't the money. It was my ego had no control over everything. If I really think about it and dive in, I just stopped fighting at 39. I was 39 when I had my last fight. So the 2019 was the last fight. I was still questioning, like, ooh, could I do a couple more, whatever. And then COVID hits in 2020, going through a divorce, going through all this. And I was basically living at the gym. And it was just like, I don't know. I didn't have control over anything that I thought I had control over. And it was a major blow to the ego. And then dealing with, it just happened to be the time I chose to deal with shit from being a kid and being like raped and dealing with abuse. And it was just like a weird time. But
start facing demons.
Yes. Facing demons hardcore.
Yeah.
And that book helped me out so much. It taught me a different way to have attachments while still being able to be detached, I guess is the best way to say it. It's like the answer to all my problems, it wasn't drugs and it wasn't alcohol. It was fighting and lots of sex. If I could do either one of those, those were my drugs of choice. It didn't matter if it was in a boxing ring. It didn't matter where. Didn't care.
In a boxing ring.
That's also fun, but I wasn't thinking that. But yeah, and that book just really helped me out with a sort of lot of things out in my own head and made me focus in a different way.
So have you ever read the book Musashi?
No.
Yeah, not even a lot of people in America know about that. So there's a book it's called Musashi. It's a very long read. It's like 1,000 pages of fine print. But it was written in the 50s by a Japanese guy, and it's loosely based on his real life. Like, I've studied the shit out of Musashi. Like, I basically know about his entire life and everything from beginning to end. But obviously, there's a lot of things that are not known also, right? Because, you know, it's lost in history books. But he based it loosely on his life, and it's an amazing book. So in Japan, it's like Gone with the Wind is what they say. Like everybody in Japan reads that book. It's like standard reading, like, you know, like Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer or some shit. Like everybody reads this book. But in America, it just hasn't gotten around so much. I'm like, whenever they make a movie on it, they're going to make a fucking killing. So
Yeah.
I'll recommend that one. Or what about the Dokudo?
No.
So you don't know about the Dokudo. So that's my Bible. So how the story goes is Musashi retired in a cave and he wrote the Book of Five Rings, right? Well, a week before he died, he wrote 21 rules to his apprentice, brought it down, and it's called the Dokudo, the way of walking alone. Brings it down, gives it to his apprentice, goes back to the cave, dies the next day. And these rules are amazing. Like they're just simple sentences, and they can be misinterpreted very easily because people kind of look at it just at face value. But if you dig deep into it, you could write an entire book just on those rules. Like
you're speaking my language. If I got to dive deep into something, that's
yeah.
Oh,
So I have
incredible.
a newsletter that I do every week, and we did a whole breakdown, 21 weeks each different rule.
That's incredible.
So actually,
that's super incredible.
I'll also give another recommendation. So Musashi's book, Jocko Willink and Tim Ferriss did a podcast together where they broke down like the whole book. That's where I heard about it first. And it was an amazing podcast. You know, they talk about like, because, you know, it's a simple story,
Yeah.
but obviously, you know, there's a lot of depth to it.
Yeah. Well, no, we love talking about books on here. I'm always talking about books that I've read or books that I plan on reading. So that's
the only fiction book I've ever read in my life.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Man, well, I'm gonna check them both out now.
I mean, I read a lot of the Bible too, but
we can have a different discussion about that one. And so probably upset a lot of people. Wow, no, thank you for the book recommendations too. And I'll make sure when we put the video out that I have like cover art or something in there, or at least a link so people can click on it. But no, that's
are you like religious or whatever? Or do you believe the Bible?
No,
Depends on the day.
yeah, it really does.
everybody
I believe there is something. I grew up going to a Baptist church. I've spent 10 years studying Islam.
Oh wow, okay.
And I've still walked away and couldn't. I like reading the books. I think there's a lot to learn in there, and I believe they have a great message. I believe if you follow roughly, you'll be a good person. But to say I believe in the Bible, I can't say that I 100% believe that everything in that book is like a fact.
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
That drives
for
me
to
nuts
sell.
when people believe that shit. And like you said, it hits, you know, fucks people up the wrong way, whatever. Like, I don't even give a fuck no more, because I'm like, you just not a good critical thinker if you believe that shit. But there's a great book called The Power of Myth. You ever heard of this? By Joseph Campbell. He's one of the most brilliant thinkers in history.
I'm loving this. I'm loving this.
But the whole point of this book, they said, The Power of Myth. His thesis in the book, and I think he actually does believe in Jesus, if I remember right. I might be wrong on that, but the thesis of his book is that all these myths in the Bible and the Quran and whatever other religious texts are out there all have similar stories. And you know, Native Americans, South Americans, they all have similar stories.
Yeah.
There's a resurrection, there's you know, creator. There's all these stories are all the same shit. And what he's saying is, you know, it is mythological, but it's powerful, and it's being lost on our culture, and that's going to be the demise of our culture. And this book was written a while back. I don't know exactly when, but it was written a while back.
Yeah, you've touched on some things that I don't know what the hell has happened. Why it's like people no longer question.
Yeah.
They just they fall in line with the rest of the people. Like
There's a lot of that, yeah.
And it's
I'm
crazy.
so I'll put something out there. Well, I get in this argument pretty regularly, to be honest.
Well, this should be good.
Especially with kind of hard-nosed, like, you know, fighter types and shit. This whole, like, pussification of America, this whole the world's lost and everything's going to shit and all this. I actually just read a book recently. The last book I read is called Factfulness, right? The entire premise of the book is it shows actual statistics on how the world is improving in all measurable ways. Less war, less poverty, more access to food, more access to luxury items, like in every measurable way. Like everything is getting better. Less people dying from, you know, fucking whatever stupid disease everybody used to die from. You know what I mean? All these measurable ways. And then people start talking about like, oh, the world's getting pussified and shit. And I'm like, did you see the Olympics? America's fucking wrecking the Olympics, bro.
Yeah, I don't know if we're
In boxing, not in boxing, we didn't do so great in boxing, but we got good boxers. In professional boxing, we kill it.
Yeah,
Wrestling,
we do. Yeah, we do.
You know what I'm
good.
saying?
We do pretty good.
at UFC, we got more CrossFit gyms than fucking anywhere. More people in CrossFit. We got Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu's fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
Like there's more people training, there's more gyms, there's more people lifting weights, there's more people running than ever in history.
I don't think
everybody talk about, oh, we're turning into pussies. I'm like,
I don't think we're turning into pussies. I think we've learned how to, because I see it with my son. Like I said, he's a gentle giant in comparison to me. Our lives are different.
Absolutely.
My son knows how to communicate with me in a way he's taught me how to communicate.
yeah.
Because it's forced me to communicate where I'd rather just not talk and just bottle it up somewhere and let it sit. I've had to talk with him and he's forced me to become a better communicator. And I enjoy the shit out of that. I don't think that's an issue. Sometimes when I mentor kids in a juvenile detention center, and they're pushing them to talk about their feelings, and I'm all good with that. The reason why I started working with them is because they weren't giving them a physical outlet. They were just having them talk.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then when I'm like, you have to remember, they got to go back home to their environment.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you can't just give them these set of tools without giving them other sets of tools as well that can cover the physical aspect, where they can think beyond, where they're not, their first instinct isn't going to pull out a gun right away or pull out a knife. It's like you got to give them something to defend themselves with on the physical aspect
You
as
teach
well.
them martial arts?
Yeah, typically boxing. They come to my Muay Thai classes, which is fun because none of them want to kick. But they're like, we're never going to kick in a street fight. I'm like, you'll never know. And I'll teach you. And then I teach them.
Kick, then you only kick in a street fight.
And then I'll show them some cool JKD stuff where look, if someone was standing here, I'd kick them right in the balls. And then I don't have to worry about it at all. It's done.
Yeah.
And so things of that nature. But I believe you need both. You should know how to communicate your feelings as a man. You should learn how to control it, learn how to do these things. And I'd also concur we have way less violence. Even you hear about it more. I hear about more shootings in Chicago, but I know for a fact there's way less murders going on in
exactly
Chicago.
What I was going to say. Like the reason everybody thinks things are getting worse is because that's all we see is negativity.
Yeah.
Because we can see it. We have more access to see this shit. It's not that it's any worse than it was before. But speaking on kids with the communication, like my kids are like that too. Like they're great communicators. Well, like one thing I try to teach them is something I learned from business that I never really learned before. But since I started running business, and it's paid dividends in all my relationships with friends, girlfriends, everything. And the number one skill that is helped me grow as a human being is just to have hard conversations. Like not to shy away from the hard conversation. And I noticed that with some of my friends that are very successful in business, and they don't shy away from hard conversations. And those that do are the ones that fail.
Yep.
and that's where them kids get into that. And but I also think it's great that you teaching them martial arts and stuff, because I remember when we were kids. I'm sure you would relate to this.
Mm-hmm.
We get in fights at school. I got in fight, like every week, whatever, right? But we're always best friends after.
In some cases, not
even best
there's a
friends,
respect level.
There's a respect.
Yeah.
And that's what I think martial arts gives to kids. It's like now you're doing that, you getting that same energy without no anger or frustration or stress.
Yeah.
And like we had a class at my school for a while. There was a pastor coming in doing it, this faith-based guy, which was kind of annoying, but it was actually a powerful thing he was doing. We do it on Sunday night. And what we do is have an open mat, everybody roll, sweat, bleed, try to fuck each other up. And then we sit around and have a little, we didn't really call it a sermon, but it's kind of like a sermon. It just open up now to each other.
Yeah.
Because we all know that the best conversations that you have with your boys is in the gym after you're sweating and bleeding and try to choke each other out.
For sure.
Or try to knock each other out, whatever it is. Now you got that respect. And that's what men need is respect.
Yes.
Like, I'm not going to talk to no man I don't respect. But now that I got that respect from you, and now I sweated and bled with you, now we can talk like men.
No, it's that's basically what we're doing with these young men.
That's a beautiful thing, man.
They don't
got a lot of respect for that.
They're not even allowed to spar unless, like, we have a long talk. I'm like, look, you guys can spar us. You can spar the fighters. If you want to spar amongst each other, the first time that it goes back here, it goes back to where they're staying, and it becomes a problem, you basically, it's not just done for you guys. It'll be done for the next few, like, groups of kids that come in until we can build that back up. And I'm like, I understand the pressure it puts on all of you guys, but it ends here. Win or lose, whatever happens, it ends here. And I have yet to have an issue. Nice. They will beat the crap out of each other. And it's amazing because they'll have beef and it'll be the dumbest shit ever just because they're kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, what rules do we want? I'll have some kid that's a wrestler and one kid that wants to just box. It's like, what is the rule set here? We got to come to agreement on rules. Well, let's do it 2 minutes standing up, and after that 2 minutes, we can go wrestle. I don't care if he takes me down because I'll have 2 minutes. I'm like, okay, cool. So we've basically done some weird one championship rules where it's like a mixture, and they'll beat the shit out of each other. And it's like, shake hands.
I love that.
And then it's done. And they don't have beef anymore.
It's amazing.
It's like, I do wish we had more of that in our society.
I would guess that it also subconsciously adds a level of respect,
of course,
for the martial arts too.
Yeah.
And they realize, like, oh, this shit ain't what I thought it was.
Yeah. Well, they come in with that giant ego.
Yeah, they got.
If they were knocking the shit out of somebody in the other juvie homes or doing whatever, or even on their block, and the moment they start going with the fighters, and they swing crazy, and then the fighters just sit back and they show them.
Relax.
They show them they can hit them. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. Or if they take them down really easy, they're like, well, what do I have to do? I'm like, hey, this is why I tell you to keep your hands up. This is why I tell you to watch your structure. I'm like, I'm not just telling you this shit just for the hell of it. It's so you can defend yourself when you need to. I do believe in our society we need more of that.
One of the things I think the martial arts teaches kids too, something I kind of preach to. We work with some troubled youth kids a little bit, and one of the things I teach them that I like about jiu-jitsu more than striking arts, I explain to them there's a logical path out of every position. Same thing in life.
Yeah.
No matter what situation you're in, there's a logical way out.
Yeah.
Now, if you relax, listen to the instruction, and do that logical path, you're going to escape.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go sporadic and jump around, I'll sit on you all fucking day, buddy.
Yeah. No, martial arts and life there's a direct correlation on on everything. I don't know about Taekwondo. I don't know about karate. I don't know about all those. I know a lot of kids take them.
To me, that they're like, they would have the same correlation as like any other sport. You know what I mean? Just like any other, at least individual sport. Like, just like if you're doing a pole vaulting, it's like, well, you have to work hard. And if you put in more volume than the others, then you're going to win, you know, and you got to have some genetics, you know, whatever. But there's nothing significantly, you know, there's no significant advantage to it. It's just a sport. Which is good too. I'm not gonna put that down, you know. Like I appreciate any kid doing a sport, you know, trying to better themselves. Period. Yeah, you know, just trying to better themselves. You know?
Man. So we were talking in the car. I mean, this podcast has gone in so many directions, and I love it for that. You have twin boys?
Yeah,
13. How often are they at the gym training?
My one son, see, I only have my kids part-time, so basically just when I have them and they're not doing another sport. But my one son, he loves it, and he's a little killer.
How's that feel?
It's cool, man. Like, I encourage him not to be a fighter, but I like him to learn lessons from being a martial artist. And then my other son, he actually doesn't even train anymore. He did for a long time, did really well. He's actually the more athletic one and had more genetic potential. But then he found golf, and he was actually really fucking good at it. And I said, there you go, bro. Like, get that.
Dig it.
Yeah, get that shit, bro. You can do that till the day you die. So, and I mean, he's a fucking killer at golf. Like he wins these tournaments all the time. And I'm like, yeah, dude, bro, go pro golf, bro.
I see where we made a mistake. I really did not want my son to play football. Like, I suffered more concussions from football than I ever did doing anything else. And
it's funny you say my son just signed up for football this year, and I was like, God,
man,
fucking anything else.
Yeah, but he loves it. Like, my son absolutely loves it, and it's like, well, screw it. If you're going to go all in, I'm going to go all in with you. And so it's like studying plays and things.
Because it's such a popular sport, and it's, you know, it's easy to love because everybody's into it, and, you know, you're going to be the most respected guy in a school if you get it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, you know, they all love it until, look, if a kid, like your kid's big, you know, it makes sense for him.
Yeah.
I get that. If your kid is a giant or a freak athlete, it makes sense.
Yeah.
If he's not that, like, my kid's going to get fucking mollywopped.
Yeah.
Like, he's a little guy, you know what I mean? And he's not a freak athlete or anything. And it's like, why are you playing this sport?
Yeah, I'm always curious why I played football. I don't know why I did it. Out of all the sports,
it's the standard sport for
and I was a big kid. It was like, I got more from wrestling than I did for football.
100%.
It was like, I wrestled for 4 years. The lessons I got from that run deeper than anything else.
Well, fortunately, my son likes wrestling too. So he likes wrestling the most.
And you could be small and do wrestling and dominate. So that's
and he's a little killer at wrestling too.
Oh, well, see, there you go.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man, I fucking love golf now though. Golf is fun, man.
So wait a minute. Are we going to see you on ESPN doing?
I hide when I golf. I don't want no one seeing that shit, bro.
Okay. I've only tried golf once, and I chalked it up to that this sport isn't made for big dudes. And
John Daly.
Yeah, I know. And see, I do remember watching him, but yeah, from what all the interviews that I've seen, that man was just beyond talented. He was like he was meant to do nothing else but golf.
Yeah.
Yes. Why do you love golf so much?
It's just fun, man. Like, you know, hang out with your kids, be outside doing something productive. It's enjoyable, relaxing. You know, I'm not out there like throwing my golf clubs when I miss and shit. You know what I mean? like I don't give a fuck.
You're not losing your mind.
Yeah, it's like bowling or something, man. You know, you just go out and chill and
All right.
relax, man. You know, hang out with your boys.
I got you.
Yeah, it's just chill as fuck, and I love being outdoors. So
Oh, my barber talks about it. They drove, I think, 90 minutes to go check out a golf course.
Yeah,
And they just spent, they got really drunk too, but they said it was one of the best golf courses they've been to. I was like, oh my goodness, 90 minutes to go
problem with
golfing.
golf, it could be a money pit real quick. That could be a real expensive sport, man.
Ugh, man, I don't know. I have a feeling that I am going to go golfing more often just because I just found out one of my best friends, he's starting to get into it. I'm like, oh, like everybody I know is getting into it. So it's like if I want to hang out with people, I'm not going to have a choice but to do it.
It's a fun thing to hang out with. It's just like that's when you know you got old, bro. Like you're officially old, man.
So I just had that. I was supposed to fight out in Thailand. I talked with Toddy and I was like, I want to give it a go. And I made it a month through a camp. And I was like, I can't do this. The body there's no way I'm going to make it there and be the same person I am. I just can't. Like I couldn't even change a light. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And we're talking about having kids. And I'm like, how am I going to hold a kid? Like, okay, this is dumb. This is really dumb. So yeah, golf.
Yeah, you could if you wanted to. If you really wanted to.
Now we're going to go back into
The juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
That's an interesting way to say it.
Nah.
So there's you talked about where you grew up at. Nobody was really talking at a higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of people at my gym that I call upper brain thinkers. That's just the way they grew up. They grew up having at a higher frequency. The conversations were different in their household. How they grew up, they were just enlightened already.
Absolutely.
And my head instructor, he just told me because I said, I'm like, I can call upon that side of me to go fight. That's not a problem. That I can't maintain it the same way. I tell people all the time, you want to be, when you fight, you want to be like in the last Avengers movie, the Incredible Hulk that also could think. You want to be able to tap into all those chemical reactions, not think about what's going on, let it go, but still be intelligent enough to focus on what you're doing in there. And I'm like, that's like the combining Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They're just combining it all. And I'm like, I could do it, right? I could. The cost is not, it's like, I don't want to get my brains beat in. I want to go home to my kids. It's like, it's weird. Fair. And I say I've become civilized. Now, I don't know. I have no idea what it's like to fight at your level. No idea. Does it still call to you at all? Do you ever think like, oh yeah, I just want to go punch some people in the face right now and maybe take a couple shots beyond just sparring at the gym?
Mm-hmm.
It still calls at you.
Absolutely, yeah.
How do you not go back to it?
Again, my purpose just changed, and I'm just committed to what I'm doing, man. You know, I just know, like I'm comfortable with what I've done. Musashi's first rule of the Dokudo: accept things the way they are, and I just accept it. Like this is what it is, man. Like I'm really good. I think part of what made me a good fighter is I'm very good at commitment. I have high integrity. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I do it, period. And I'll die before I sacrifice my integrity, period. So like when I said I'm retiring, I was like, that's it. It was that simple. And, you know, I also said, I never strayed away from the fact, look, if you pay me enough, like I'll come back.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
but I also know my price is higher than anyone's going to pay.
Yeah. Man.
which is fine. You know, like I'm very content, very happy with it. That was a season of my life, and I'm on to the next season.
I'm really in awe of you. It's not even the fighting. It's the mentality, because like I said, it's like I'm looking at you and I'm like, mentally, that's where I'm trying to go. Like, that's a stage of my life where I'm trying to get to. And it's like, at times I'm there, and other times I'm like,
I think that a lot of people ask me about my mentality, and I personally think the only difference between me and everyone else is that commitment and integrity. Like for example, we run these stairs. Like, I'm sure you guys do some hard workouts, right? Like, we go run these stairs, right? On average, we usually do about 10 stair sprints. There's like 120 of them. It's hard as fuck, you know? Every now and then I'll go out and be like, hey, we're doing 20 today. Like, we can't do 20, really. Like, it's really, really fucking hard. But when I say I'm doing 20, like, I'll die before I don't do 20.
No, like, I understand that mentality. I understand.
That's literally all it is.
That's not even a question for me. It's like, okay, we're dying. We're dying.
Yeah, so I think I just carry that into everything else. Like, if I say I'm going to do it, I just do it. And I said, I'm going to retire. I'm going to commit my life to this new season, and just do it. And it's just that simple. You know, to me, I think, people try to make things gray area a lot of times. I'm like, I'm very black and white.
Don't get
And
No,
I try to get him to see gray area all the time.
yeah. Well,
I preach life is very simple. It's black and white.
Yeah.
It's very black and white.
Well, to be fair, women, a feminine woman, which I'm assuming the lady here is, they live in the gray area.
Yeah.
And it's not a good or bad thing. That's not a misogynist thing. It's not a putting down women in any way. My belief on that is, that's a feminine trait.
Yes.
There's a masculine and feminine. It's not good and bad. Gays go through the same shit. And to me, the way that I view it, and it's helped my relationships a lot, even though women never really understand it. But it's helped my relationships. I see that that challenge that they bring to that as a challenge to my masculinity. And if I fail that challenge, then now I'm falling into femininity.
Oh, brother. That was huge right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's all it is. Like, that's what the yin and yang, that's what the feminine is for, and that's what the masculine is for. They need both, right? If there's no masculine, it's like a wave, right? Like, a man should be a straight line. The woman is the wave on that line.
Yeah.
And life sucks when it's just a straight line. And life sucks if that wave goes too big or small.
Yeah. Now that makes perfect sense.
It's just about balancing the two together, and that's why that wave goes above and below the line. It's not all above the line. It's not all below. Like, it goes above, then it goes below. And that's where, she, not even a she, like a feminine human being, is going to test that line all the time.
Yes.
And that's okay. Like, if we didn't have that test, life would be pretty boring, right?
It would be extremely boring.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing you're the same way. I do pretty much the same thing every single day. I wake up at the same time. It's 4 a.m. I go on with my life, and I'm usually asleep between 9 and 10. And life is good. And
you have a purpose. Right?
Yeah. It's really simple. Man, that was probably
that to me is just the feminine masculine.
Yeah.
And if there's not a balance there, then it's not a good relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I assume, I mean, I can only tell from my own experience, but like, the feminine is attracted to that masculinity because they know that wave is going to go way big and way small, and that's why they're attracted to masculine men, because they want something to rein that in.
It's the
something
anchor
to hold on to.
We're the anchor.
Yeah, it's the anchor. That's the safety that you bring them, the protection. And then, because if a man falls in that femininity and he's going on that big wave line, now she's going to be, or the feminine is going to be lost and confused and not feel comfortable.
Yep. It's
that's just my
that was the best way to that was the best way. That was the best way to really explain it.
I'm also divorced and single, so I don't know if you should be listening to me.
Honestly, I think it's better. It's because we're divorced. I think we've learned.
1,000%.
Like, learn from the mistake. I know I've learned from the mistakes. I know I've looked at it, and I'm still making mistakes like anybody else. It's like I'm making mistakes all the time, but it's definitely learning from those mistakes and saying, okay, I know for me in my first marriage, I was like building things up, and I'm like, you're telling me all these different things you want, and I'm trying to fulfill that, but your wants change. And I'm like, something's got to give here, because my wants don't change. This is what I want. This is what I want to do. And if your wants keep changing, the only one that can meet those are you. You got to figure out how to do that, and just go through all that. And I've learned from things like that where, they're going to go up and down and do that. And if you run like the straight line, that was a great analogy, by the way. It's if you stay the course, you're always the anchor. You're always the anchor that they can come back to, and you're always going to be good. Yeah. And
they sometimes they're going to feel like they don't like that, and maybe stray away a little too much because they don't relate to it.
Yep.
And then they realize, like, oh shit, that was good for me.
Yep.
And I think that's why a lot of divorces happen too.
Yeah.
And then both were like, a lot of times, not always, sometimes two people just aren't compatible.
Yeah.
But and to get a little deeper with it, I mean, I think I've had this kind of thesis that this whole femininity, and again, it's not necessarily females and males, but this femininity is carried over into a lot of the world, like politics, for instance. Like America, the biggest issue I see with America is we lost fundamentals. And there's a lot of those waves everywhere, and people becoming attached to the emotional side.
Yes.
Versus that's what the founders set out, was a clear purpose, and a clear, very straightforward, very black and white, very simple thing. And then the femininity comes in, a lot of men too, like in politics, that are very feminine, and they're all like, well, there's gray area here. What about this? And should be like this. And then, I mean, a perfect example is, them allowing the Fed to control interest rates, right? So now it's not controlled by a market, right? Now it's controlled by human beings who are emotional.
We were just, my accountant stopped at the gym. We were just talking about this.
So I have a thesis that you can trace that back to its origin of femininity.
Yeah.
And not necessarily like feminism, right? Because that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it goes into a different boat, I would say. But
yeah.
I have this talk with my students all the time, men and women, where they're like, oh, it's not that simple. I'm like, yes, it is. What is it that you're trying to accomplish in your life? What are your goals? What's your why? Where are you going with it? Mm-hmm. Once you understand, and you've touched on this before, once you know your purpose, it's simple. You just wake up and do that every day, and anything that goes against that doesn't belong there.
And where people fuck up, I don't know if I say fuck up, it might be a little harsh, but we all fuck up.
Yes.
So that's why I say maybe it's a little harsh, because we're all going to fuck up. But for me personally, what helped me was I wrote a mantra or a mission statement, so to speak, on a whiteboard, right on my mirror.
Yep.
So as soon as I wake up in the morning, I read it. And that was actually, a lot of people don't know. I don't even remember I don't know if I've ever even said this publicly before, but that was my original purpose of my Immortal tattoo. So that way I would wake up every day in the mirror and see it and remind myself who I am. I'm fucking immortal. And, you know, it's like an extreme version of basically saying, you know, unfuckable with.
Yeah. No,
You know. And then you know,
this
my
is crazy.
biggest, my most down day, like, doesn't faze me because I'm like, look, you have to bury me 6 feet in the ground, and I'm gonna fucking dig my way out, bitch.
Yep.
The fuck, don't fuck like try it. So my most down day, that's why I had to go to the extreme.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The original inspiration of the tattoo, by the way, was from Phil Anselmo, who's Pantera, and his says "unscarred," and I was like, that's not extreme enough for me. You know what I mean? I was like, that's not represent. I also didn't want to like straight, you know, cops tattoo either. You know? But you know, his is saying, you know, I'm just not scarred from it, and I'm saying like no, I'm not even touched by it.
I don't. Listening to you speak, it sounds weird. It's in some ways, all it's doing is reinforcing what the fuck I think on top of what I preach to my students and the fighters. I literally,
like you said, it's all simple. We all feel the same things. It's just a matter of, you know, articulating it simply, where people can understand it. And I do a lot of, you know, probably more deep thinking than I should. You know,
no such fucking thing. That's what I say.
But when I sit and think about things, a lot of times, like I'll sit on planes sometimes and not even put headphones or anything and just think, you know, or I'll use like the noise canceling headphones and just think, you know, with no music or anything. A lot of what I try to think about is like how to define things, you know, like simple words that are just not defined. You know, in business, like that's taken me a long way.
Yeah.
You know, it's made a big difference because people will say things like teaching. I'm like, well, how do you define teaching? Like what are you doing? Are you training or are you teaching? You know, are you just yelling out words or are you teaching? You know, I'm like, so maybe you should define that. And if you can't define that to me, then are you really a teacher?
Yes, that's,
you know, just simple things like that.
I literally had a 17-year-old student tell me he was struggling with confidence. And I was like, how extreme do you want to fucking go here? And he was like, as far as you could take me. I'm like, I want you by yourself to stand in a fucking mirror, set your timer for like 2 minutes, and I want you to be butt-ass naked and look in the fucking mirror and just say you fucking love yourself and you love who the fuck you are, and say out loud what your purpose is, what your goals are, and fucking repeat it over and over and start over. 2 months later, he comes in the fucking gym. He's completely different. When he fights, I've never seen anyone hit a switch. He turned on music and he was dancing in the back. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't anything. And he went out there and destroyed this other kid. I was like, oh shit, what? We created a fucking monster here. He was like completely different. He said, being able to look myself in the mirror and just talk to myself and actually look, he was like, it was the scariest shit I've ever done.
Interesting.
And it felt amazing. He was like, because he didn't know how to face himself.
Yeah.
Which is normal for most people, but definitely like a kid.
I found that interesting.
And I was like, shit, man. I'm like, but I sit there for hours.
So I'll give you a different outlook on that because I actually preach to my guys not to do that.
Really?
It's interesting that you say that.
Really?
I mean, it works. So obviously it worked for him. So that's actually great, you know, so I'm not disagreeing or anything.
Yeah.
But normally I tell them not to, because like the affirmations and, maybe that was just specifically what he needed, or a lot of you guys need, but so first I define confidence. So how do you define confidence?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Belief in yourself, belief in what you're doing, belief in...
But why would you believe?
Because if I don't believe in it, I'm not going to be able to go anywhere with it. I'm not going to...
But still, why would you believe, though? I mean, not you saying like, yeah, you should believe, but why? Confidence, I'll just give you the answer. Confidence comes from a stack of evidence that you've done it. Like, I've done...
I see where you're going.
I've done hundreds of podcasts, if not thousands of podcasts. Like, I'm confident. You know what I mean? I'm comfortable. I'm confident that I can come on podcast and be fine. I don't have to but the first time I did a podcast, I was scared out of my fucking mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that confidence just comes from a stack of evidence. If you think Jordan Burroughs is confident?
Oh, yeah, because he's done it
a million times.
But what do you do?
But you think the first time he went out there and wrestled, he was confident?
Oh, no.
He's scared, I guarantee.
And I can apply that to like hitting the stage or even doing the mic or the first time that I had to lead a class and do...
Exactly. So I tell all my fighters, look, like, you don't suck because you suck. You suck because you haven't done it long enough not to suck.
Yes. Yes.
Like, just keep doing it.
Yes.
And then you're going to build the confidence because you've done it.
Yeah. And that, I 100% agree with that, because it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah. It's like, don't beat yourself up because you suck at it right now. Like, keep doing it. You won't suck forever.
It's one of those things like guys get scared before fights. And I'm like, well, you should be scared. Like, you might go out there and get knocked the fuck out.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I still get scared too.
Yeah.
But I'm like, look, I don't get scared because I've done it a million times. So I'm comfortable in it. I'm comfortable in that scared, but I get scared because I care.
Yeah.
It's not because I'm worried about what's going to happen. It's because I care about my performance. Like, I put a lot into this.
You've grown past the stages of worrying about what happens.
Exactly.
It's different for you.
So these guys, if they lack confidence, I'm like, you should lack confidence. Like if you haven't already done it, you should lack confidence.
Well, what if they lack confidence in themselves, period? Not the fighting. Not fighting and not doing it. Just in themselves. Because that's what he was dealing with. So now I'm curious, how would you build that?
Well, again, you have to define what confidence in yourself is. Like, confidence in yourself to speak, or like to...
So you're saying
fight, or
so you're saying break it down to something even more specific.
You just compartmentalize it. I mean, it's a skill. Like, everything we do in life is a skill. Like, if you're not, it's just like with sales. Like, I have a 16, I think she just turned 17-year-old girl that we're teaching, the front desk and how to do sales and stuff. And she's nervous and shit. And well, I'll give you an example, right? She's like, well, I'm not really like charismatic. She used that exact term, right? I'm not charismatic. And I said, well, define charismatic. And she's like, well, like, they feel the energy. And I'm like, no, there's a set of skills that is charismatic. Like, if you walk up to people, look in their eyes, use a good, strong tone in your voice, speak clearly, shake their hand, would you define someone that does that as charismatic? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, how about when someone comes in, look in their eyes, speak clearly, shake their hand, and now you're going to come across charismatic. Now, the first time you do it, you're going to suck. But again, you're not going to suck because you suck. You're going to suck because you haven't done it enough not to suck.
I never once thought about it that way as far as confidence. I'm always asking people to define the word when they try to use a word. Yeah. It's like, what is that? Like, do you know the definition of the word? Like what?
Like, you're not supposed to be confident in something that you haven't done. Like, if I got to go fucking skydive right now, I'm not going to be
Oh
confident.
yeah, that's so.
I was just trying to think of something that I haven't done.
Yeah, no, that
But like if I got
that makes sense.
Yeah, if I gotta go fucking, I mean, I've done everything I can think of. But
Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
if you ask me to go knit you something, am I going to be confident? No.
That's so
But if I
crazy.
knit you 10 different things, I'm going to be confident in it, or 100 or whatever it takes.
I just believe this is. I know I'm definitely
break
gonna
it
use.
down.
No,
It's
I'm
just-
gonna use that because when you were asking me about the belief, I just always believe I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I choose to
because
do.
you got confidence that based on your evidence of yourself that you have done before what you chose to do, and you know you're going to do it again because you
I
have that
survived.
evidence.
Like I survived
You
my
have that-
childhood, so it was like nothing's gonna be like
You
that.
have that evidence.
So,
Again,
man, that's so deep.
We get that. It's just evidence.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing more. Like it's just history. Like I've done it before. I can do it again.
Yeah. What I didn't. No, that's
It's not
no.
complicated.
My mind
right?
is
It's actually
my mind is blown because it is so simple. Because
Yeah.
I didn't even think about asking him. Like I knew it wasn't the fight that he was. It wasn't the fight that was stressing him. It was just like being a 17-year-old kid, and it
when
never.
when you're a
dawned on me.
17-year-old kid, like you haven't done much in life.
Yeah.
Period.
And it never dawned on me to go that.
Like he's supposed to be scared. He's supposed to not be confident. Now the question is, are you a coward or are you a man now? Because a coward is going to go in with that lack of confidence and cower up like a coward.
Yeah.
A man can go into it and face his fear.
Yep.
That's called courage, right?
Yeah.
That's what they say, right? Like courage isn't
Yep.
the lack of fear. It's facing.
It's facing your fear. Yep. You just light bulbs went off in my head. Like that was pretty dope because I never thought about it that simple. And I know for a fact I didn't think about it that simple because it comes so easy to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I wanna go do this now.
Right.
I'm gonna fuck it up, but I'm gonna go get it done, and like
Right.
it's gonna happen. It doesn't even dawn on me to like that I can't do that.
Yeah, it was a lot of times too. That's in my opinion, there's like insecurity too, because like obviously like you're more secure in yourself, right? You're older. You're not 17.
Yeah.
So you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go do it, and I'm probably gonna fuck it up.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that. Right? Like that's fine. Like okay, if I fuck it up, then I'll fucking do it again.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're 17, you're like, oh, if I fuck this up, this is the end of my life.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna look at me funny, and that's where, especially at that age, it's a hard thing to even teach.
Yeah.
Is how to let go of your ego
Yeah.
and let go of, because we all know, the simple thing is, not giving a fuck what people think.
Yeah.
And go back to Musashi, everything's within.
Yep.
Anytime you let the external influence the internal, you're running into issues.
You're done.
Yeah, you're gonna have problems.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn that until I got knocked out. I got knocked out by Cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big fight for me. In front of fucking however many millions of people. I got knocked out bad. I got, fucking, like it's a highlight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I look back and see that shit still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I had to let go of like what anybody would think.
Mm.
And it also helped that, I got good people around me. If I didn't, that could be, who knows if I would have come to all these realizations, right?
Yeah.
But I had good people. So I realized the next day, like, dude, my life ain't no different. I didn't get the money, but like my kids still fucking love me.
Yeah.
Like the sun's still coming up today.
Yep.
Like I still got a fucking face today.
Yep.
So it's like, if all my concern is on the external, then I'd be broken.
Yeah.
Right. And this happens to people.
Yeah.
I'd be fucked. Like if my ego was attached to that, if my identity was attached to, winning that fight.
Mm-hmm. That's what died during COVID for me.
Your identity.
My ego.
Your ego.
I had to kill it.
Mm.
I had to kill it then. I had no choice. And it was because I thought everybody looked at me as this. Mm. And I focused on that. And then when I couldn't live up to that because I couldn't do all those things
your identity,
anymore, yeah, it was like, well, who am I?
Yeah.
And it was weird. I have
well, see, you circling back, that's what it took for me to retire, right? When you talk about the identity, it's like I think that's where fighters have a hard time retiring. Like Tony Ferguson right now, I think his identity is attached to being a fighter. Like he's got to, maybe not him specifically, who knows? But I know for certain, like you see this with guys where they're like, they go in the bar and meet a girl. They're like, they want to say I'm a UFC fighter.
Yeah.
Or even not even a bar meet a girl. I mean, it could be,
anything.
Just anybody they meet. They're like, yeah, I'm a UFC fighter, and I got this fight coming up. They love saying that shit, right? Where now, like I'm comfortable with just saying like, nah, it's not me no more. Like, like I'm just a fucking dumb gym owner from Columbus, Ohio now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, see, and we should probably wrap this up. We were talking on the way over here. You keep talking about doing a podcast, but you haven't done it, brother. Podcast, cool. A book, man. A book.
I've been approached about it before.
And
the problem with the book, like they've approached to me about it a couple times before, and like all these things just take time and energy.
Yeah, true that.
Because like they're gonna sit down and talk to you about your life, what you did. For me, I don't like even talking about what I did. I don't give a fuck what I did. My life ain't about what I did. It's about what I'm gonna do.
See, there may be videos or something, because I'm telling you right now, I'm like, there's so many things that you're saying that I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's exactly how I think. That makes sense. And then you say something like define confidence. I enjoy having dope conversations. It's very rare where someone asks me something and then light bulbs get turned on in my head. I'm like, oh shit. Like there's so many people that could benefit from just hearing that, because
well, I do. To be fair, I do podcasts pretty regularly. So
yeah,
so
I did see that.
Yeah, they get to hear.
When I started looking up, I'm like, what the fuck can I ask him that he hasn't been asked? I'm like, everybody goes down the same road, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, I don't want to go down the same road. I just want to. I want to be able to just talk and see where the hell it goes.
Yeah.
Like your philosophy on life, and just, it's, you know what it reminds me of, honestly? Of some of my older uncles. Like that older man mind frame. And
I don't know if I should take it as a compliment.
You're younger than me. You're younger than me. You're a year younger than me. So but that's what I mean. It's like it's like certain light bulbs went off in your head where they're just starting to go off in mine. And it's like it's to me, it's like you've conquered your ego to a certain extent. You have a better understanding of who you are. That might be the best way to say it. You have an understanding of who you are. And
I'm just not afraid to face who I am. Like I said earlier, the biggest dividends
that was dope.
That pays off in life is hard conversations, and not just with others.
No, with yourself.
Yeah, with your goddamn self.
My last question then. When did that happen, and what the fuck was that conversation like?
I mean, it's not just like everything, man. It's not a one day thing, you know what I mean? It wasn't like a light bulb went off, like, oh, I better talk to myself. You know what I mean? So now you just grow and you just grow, man. Like every day, just try to get a little better, right? And
I lied. I have one more question. And this one is probably more personal, like at least for me, a more personal question.
yeah, fire away, bro.
How did you how are you able to look in the mirror, see that fucking monster, and like, cool, I accept you? What if that question makes sense?
Depends on what you mean by that monster.
So I'll have full blown conversations with I talk to myself very often, out loud.
I'll give you a. I don't know if I say advice. I don't like giving advice, but I'll tell you what I do.
Yeah.
Instead of having a conversation with myself, I have a conversation with my elderly self. What's my elderly self going to say to me right now? Is he going to say, date that girl? Is he going to say, go do this?
Future
Go take that risk.
Future you.
I'm a genius.
Because, I listened to this podcast with Tim Ferriss one time, and this guy that he interviewed worked at, it was like a hospice type place where people go to die.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this guy had been around thousands of people's death. And he spoke to them and became their friends, and as they're dying,
yeah.
Right? So he talked a lot about what these people's last thoughts were, and I found it very fascinating. The things they regretted, things that they wish they had done.
Yeah.
And I don't think most of us, all we talk about is like live in the present moment, all this bullshit, right? Which we should, but we forget about how fucking meaningless our lives are. We're fucking nothing, bro.
Yep. Just
So
a little grain of fucking salt compared to the universe.
If even that, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They say there's more stars in the sky than there is fucking grains of sand, 'Cause I've heard that. I don't know if it's true, but so it's like really all that matters is, what do you think about your past self? So what am I going to think about my past self when I'm dying, Like we're all going to be forgotten.
Yeah.
Like one day we're going to be the fucking ancient Americans, bro.
Yep.
So that shit that you worried about a week ago, that fucking bullshit.
Yep.
Like, do you even remember when you were 20, like what you were stressed out about? Like you don't even know, right?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, this shit fucking goes fast, man.
Yeah, man.
You got kids, like this shit flies by.
For sure.
So it's like, who gives a fuck, man? Like that's how I look at it. I'm just like, dude, I don't really give that much of a fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a fucking, let's, go shoot the shot, bro.
Yeah.
For me personally, it may not relate to everyone or others, but for me personally, that's just a huge help for my insecurity. And like, I actually enjoy doing podcasts now because, see, back in the day when I used to do podcasts, I was very like robotic, and I kind of had my answers. Like I wanted to sound a certain way, talk a certain way, sound like a fucking hard ass, or, fucking threaten my opponents, whatever. And then over time, as I allow my insecurity to go away, now I'm like, bro, I don't really give a fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll talk about anything. Like you could ask me my deepest, darkest secret. Not that I have one, but I'd be like,
I got you.
I'd tell live on TikTok to every single person. And like, I don't give a slightest fuck. It's like, and so I try to use it for positivity now. Doing podcasts, doing these interviews all the time. It's like, I can use that. This is my affirmation, right? This is how I repeat the positivity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's part of why I'm going to do my own podcast. you know, I can repeat those affirmations to myself.
Yes.
And I learned that from doing fight interviews. I'd have to do media week, right? And you'd have 20, 30, 40
Mhm.
interviews, same fucking bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
right? So instead of in my mind turning into a negative thing, like, oh, I don't want to fucking answer that question again, they'd say, you know, like, what are you going to do to your opponent, right? And I use it as a positive affirmation. Right? Like, dude, I'm gonna be great. I'm gonna do awesome. I'm gonna feel good. I'm gonna cut weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I enhance that positivity
Yep.
in myself and bring those vibrations up.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no problem.
you. Man, thank y'all for tuning in. We out.